astronomers have spent years looking for a mysterious star. The team behind the discovery finally found what they were looking for. It's been described as being the shape of a teardrop, and it's said that it only pulsates on one side. This star's official name is that of HD 74423, and thanks to NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite, researchers were able to find out more about this mysterious celestial object. The test data showed scientists the star is around 1.7 times the mass of the Earth's sun. The reason behind its strange pulsating is said to be because of a nearby star. Astronomer Don Kurtz from the University of Central Lancashire in the UK said the following: "We've known theoretically that stars like this should exist since the 1980s. I've been looking for a star like this for nearly 40 years, and now we have finally found one." As mentioned, these types of pulsating stars are not anything new, and researchers have known about them for a while now. In fact, studies within our very own solar system shows that our sun does pulsate every so often. The reason HD 74423 pulsates the way it does is because of a nearby red dwarf. It flies around the star every 2 days, and this causes a strong gravitational pull, causing HD 74423 to take on this strange shape. A study based on this research can be found in the Journal of Nature Astronomy. One of the most interesting discoveries of recent months has been that surrounding the discovery of many new exoplanets, and this again was by the Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite. For those that aren't aware, back in 2009, the Kepler satellite was launched with the purpose of discovering planets all across our galaxy, and helped to shed light on the discovery of a number of potential habitable Earth-like planets located very close to our solar system. This mission proved to be such a success and at the center of a number of incredible discoveries, that this led to the creation and launch of another satellite system known as the Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite. And this was designed for the purpose of discovering exoplanets moving across the surface of their parent star and revealing their size in their shadows. Despite this new state-of-the-art system having been launched back on the 18th of April in 2018, it's already made a number of exoplanet discoveries in recent months. These discoveries include 8 new confirmed planets, 300 additional planetary candidates, a number of gas giant planets, and many Earth-like planets that have been missed by previous Kepler missions. Additionally, these new discoveries have allowed the new revelation that for a planet to form similar to stars that of Jupiter, it must have an orbit that has been disturbed, allowing it to form to such a massive size, providing new insights as to exactly how gas giants are formed in the universe. At the rates this new satellite is discovering undiscovered planets, it will surely pass the Kepler satellite in a few years, as well as lead to a number of incredible insights and discoveries in the academic field. It's discoveries like these that show us how truly vast the universe is. Every other week, scientists and researchers are making new, incredible discoveries. So what do you make of these interesting space discoveries? Cryptids are creatures that some believe to exist. However, their existence is not yet proven scientifically. Despite their mysterious nature, more and more of their sightings are being reported as more evidence of them roaming our planet piles up. Perhaps one of the lesser-known cryptids is that of the Hound of Mons. The tale of a supernatural dog commonly referred to as the hellhound is common in most societies worldwide. From descriptions, the creature is said to be a large canine with shining red eyes, black fur, and very sharp teeth, and can appear and disappear instantly. Some legends have it that the hellhound comes from the underworld where it guards graveyards and the entry point to the world of the dead. Others say these creatures hunted the condemned souls, and that seeing or hearing one was a bad omen that would lead to death. The story of the Hound of Mons took place during the First World War. Back in the year 1914, the Battle of Mons involved German and British forces. Since no side could gain ground in the battle, both forces suffered casualties, which made the area between the two armies to be called No Man's Land, since it was a barren wasteland. This gave birth to the story of the Hound of Mons, which was told by F.J. Newhouse, a Canadian veteran. The story starts early in the Battle of Mons. When the London Fusiliers received orders to patrol the No Man's Land perimeter, the team of patrols did not return and were assumed to have passed away from injuries inflicted by the enemy's firearms. It wasn't until several days later, when their bodies were found, that a strange discovery was made. It was noted they had their necks stripped apart and large teeth marks on their wounds. A while later, Other army men reported hearing howls at night that scared even the bravest of them. As the war went on, other men were sent to patrol no man's land, and they too were found attacked by a large animal, one that had inflicted similar wounds to the last. A soldier from Britain reportedly heard a strange howl which was followed by terrorizing screams from the Germans. Some troops on duty reported seeing a large grayish-black hound prowling in the no man's land shadows. The creature went on terrorizing the battlefield for 2 years, until all of a sudden the attacks in hell seemed to have mysteriously stopped. One would expect that the hellhound is a supernatural creature. However, Newhouse proposes a different origin for the hound. He said it came as a result of an experiment to produce a live weapon by the German military. Newhouse mentioned that Dr. Hochmaler, who was a German scientist, had been looking for a mad person who hated England from the mental asylums, and after finding him, started to experiment. Although some have said these theories sound outlandish and not true, throughout history many experiments have been conducted on humans, with a large majority of them not being released to the general public. During wartime, it's not far-fetched to say that scientists were brought in to carry out inhuman experiments on willing or unwilling humans. If this was able to give them an edge on the battlefield, they would have most likely tried it. This wolf was said to have been trained and released to no man's land to attack the British troops, yet no one imagined it would also attack the Germans. According to Newhouse, the doctor's experiments were outlined in papers he wrote himself that were found after the war. The majority believe the Hound of Mons is a made-up story. After all, there's no evidence backing up the accounts given by Newhouse. Additionally, it's hard to imagine how a human could be transformed into a wolf-like being. Just like many legends, the Hound of Mons story will be passed down generations, but as of today it remains a mystery. Another mysterious creature is that of the Likwada. The Likwada is a monstrous creature said to reside in the Ugandan water bodies, especially Lake Victoria, where a large amount of people have witnessed the creature. Some say that it's a living mosasaur, with an elongated snout full of sharp teeth and a huge body with large flippers that look like paddles. It's believed to have supernatural powers, and some Ugandans worship it. It feeds on fish, but it is known for attacking any life form that comes near its waters. This creature was brought to the world's attention for the first time when Sir Clement Hill and his team of explorers reportedly saw it during the exploration of Mount Homer. According to Hill, the Likwada jumped from the lake and attempted to grab the native god whose screams caught his attention. Hill's vague description noted that the Likwada had a long neck and a small head. James Whalen, the director of geological surveys from Uganda, was reportedly given a Likwada bone by a native in the 1940s. In this region, the natives believed that the Likwada most likely fought with crocodiles, and in this situation it occasionally lost its bones. The locals then collected the fragments and cherished them for the belief that they have supernatural powers. According to reports, traditional descriptions of the Likwada include its head being square and having a dolphin-like body with brown skin and an underbelly that is white. Many natives from Lake Victoria believe that the Likwada is a big catfish, one that is 12 feet in length. This is despite the sightings that reported an elongated neck. The idea that the Likwada could be a giant catfish is supported by the fact that catfish are common in most water bodies worldwide and can grow to enormous sizes, with some species getting over 10 feet long and weighing over 800 pounds. Because catfish are bottom feeders, the size of Lake Victoria can support the life of a giant catfish. Even though no one knows what exactly lurks in the Lake Victoria waters, some amateur researchers have looked into the phenomenon and have not ruled out that a prehistoric relic could exist. This is due to how big and ancient the lake is. Other suggested theories include the Likwada being a giant anaconda or an enormous freshwater eel. At the moment, there is no evidence to support the stories that a creature like the Likwada exists in Lake Victoria. All that remains is a bunch of theories without scientific proof to support them. However, the people are adamant about what they are seeing and say that ancient relics live in this lake. Another interesting creature is the Beast of Bray Road. With its hairy, humanoid nature, the Beast of Bray Road was first seen in Wisconsin back in 1936. Local folklore suggested the creature is that of a werewolf, but cryptozoologists say that it's a Bigfoot. The vast majority of the sightings suggest, though, this creature looks like a werewolf. This has caused some to suggest the creature could actually be a dogman. a creature said to be a mix between a man and a dog. Some have said, however, that werewolf sightings are just dogmen, and stories of these dogmen go back thousands of years. The Beast of Bray Road is said to be approximately 6 to 7 feet in height, with fur that is grayish-brown. His face is similar to a wolf's, with yellow glowing eyes and ears that are pointed. His body resembles a muscular man even though it's very and is said to walk on all fours or its hind legs. It's been cited as a kneeling lucky human. It's also been seen eating prey with both hands, with having its palms facing up. It's not known to attack people, but according to witness accounts, this creature has been aggressive towards humans. This creature is said to be one of America's most famous werewolves. It's been talked about a lot since it was first sighted. Even today, people aren't sure what exactly the creature is. The evidence supporting the existence of the Beast of Bray Road is far more than that of any other werewolf legend, and this comes down to the fact that many witnesses have come forward with their encounters of the creature. Increasing number of reported sightings of the Beast of Bray Road happened between 1980 and 1990, and this prompted various newspapers to come forward and cover the story. Some believe the creature is a lot more normal than what witnesses are making out, saying that the creature could be an escaped pet wolf, a bear, or another creature of unknown existence. From this perspective, a werewolf seen in the Beast of Bray Road could be the result of mere panic or mistaken observations which led people to exaggerate the true features of the animal. According to others, all this is a hallucination or a planned costume prank. Several cryptids have been proposed to be the real identity of the Beast of Bray Road, including the skunk ape, Bigfoot, or the bear dog. All of the proposed creatures match some of the sightings, however, none of them match all the sightings. As of today, no one is entirely sure what the Beast of Bray Road is. So what do you make of these mysterious creature encounters? During the early years of World War I, there was a sighting of a strange monster out in the open ocean that would later be referred to as the U-28 creature. According to the reports surrounding the creature, the encounter occurred on the 30th of July back in 1915. This was when a German U-boat commander known as Commander Freifrosner wrote a detailed report following his attack on the British steamer the Iberian. He claimed that after the steamer sank, a large aquatic animal could be seen. He described the mysterious creature as being approximately 80 feet in length and similar to that of a large crocodile. The report is quoted as saying the following: "At that moment I had with me in the conning tower 6 of my officers of the watch, including the chief engineer, the navigator, and the helmsman. Simultaneously, we all drew one another's attention to this wonder of the sea, which was struggling among the debris. We were unable to identify the creature, but all of us agreed that it resembled an aquatic crocodile, which was around 60 feet in length with 4 limbs resembling large web feet, a long pointed tail, and a head which tapered to a point. Unfortunately, we were not able to take a photograph, for the animal sank out of sight around 10 or 15 seconds later. This caused many to speculate that perhaps ancient creatures have survived in the modern day. After all, this isn't the first account of a strange prehistoric creature. And although the reports are slightly different, a pattern does emerge when looking at all of them. Some have suggested the creature in question is that of a mosasaur, a creature that lived in our oceans during the same time as the dinosaurs. It would have been one of the top predators during its time. It grew to massive sizes and would have fed on pretty much anything it could get its jaws on. Interestingly, the U-28 creature and the mosasaur do have a lot in common. It's not far-fetched to say these ancient creatures could have survived the extinction event. In fact, various creatures have been discovered over the years that were thought to be extinct. These include creatures such as the coelacanth. This strange-looking fish was estimated to have gone extinct millions of years ago. However, every so often, a diver would come forward and say that they have seen one in the ocean. This, of course, was immediately written off as the creature was known to have become extinct. But when more and more reports started to come in, researchers finally decided to investigate the claim. It turned out that when scientists put a team together to investigate the Kriegans, they not only found out they were real, but that they had been around since the time of the dinosaurs. It's examples like this why people don't rule out the possibility of prehistoric creatures still roaming our planet. Another interesting theory researchers have come forward with is that this creature was actually on board the Iberian. This theory states the boat had discovered the creature and wanted to bring it back to land for more study. However, as it was making its way back, it got into trouble with the German U-boat. When the U-28 eventually took down the Iberian, what the German crew had seen was the creature that was on board the British boat. There's been some arguments whether the event was recorded in logs. Modern reports state that it was never noted in any logs, and the captain didn't see anything. However, other theories state the captain told the crew not to talk about what they had seen, with others saying that even if it was noted down, the evidence would have most likely been taken away immediately, as any proof of cryptids or other life forms is usually covered up. As with most of these events, as time has gone on, it's become harder to know the truth. One eyewitness who did see the event never talked about it openly, which some say proves that he did see the creature. He feared that if he did come forward with the information, he would have most likely been fired. As of today, the mystery behind the U-28 creature's story remains a mystery, and it's unlikely we'll never know what truly happened on that day. Another interesting ocean discovery was made a few years back. Going back in 2016, a strange and unexplainable deep-sea anomaly was discovered. Spotted using state-of-the-art satellite information, there appears to be a massive pyramid construction underwater that completely dwarfs the size of the pyramid seen at Giza. It appears the structure seems to be somewhere around 3.5 to 11 miles across, and looks to be resting in a large area of underwater terrain in the Pacific Ocean. Many can view the mysterious structure using Google Earth satellite images, and this is done when looking at the coordinates 12 degrees north and 119 degrees west. The discovery of the object was made by a researcher located out of Argentina. He claims the structure could be evidence of the formation of ancient civilizations long before man was supposedly capable of roaming the planet, and that, at a different time in Earth's history, could have experienced a change in tide that would allow the construction of this monstrosity. His theories, however, have not prevented a wide range of theories from forming in various communities. Many believe that it could very well be a possibility that the structure isn't that of a large underwater pyramid, but that of a secret base inhabiting the ocean floor. Many have often referenced the existence of strange sightings of unidentified submerged objects, or that of UFOs exiting from under the ocean and shooting off into the sky. Given the structure's massive size, sudden appearance, and strange artificial shape, this has led many to believe that the object is shrouded in mystery. Interestingly enough, other researchers have picked up on the discovery. As of right now, though, it's not entirely known what the object is, and although various theories have been put forward, no one can explain the true nature of this bizarre anomaly. Another mysterious creature is that of the Cadborosaurus. Cadborosaurus, also known as Caddy, is an alleged sea monster. The creature is said to inhabit British Columbia along with various other locations in North America. Those who have witnessed the creature describe it as a long serpent-like creature with large flippings. The head of the creature is debated, with some saying it has a camel-like head while others say it has more than ancient marine reptiles. Gettys for its length vary, with some believing it's relatively large, ranging from 35 to 80 feet in length, with other reports coming in that it's closer to 20 to 30 feet in length. What's interesting is that it's one of the most witnessed cryptids. It's been estimated there's over 350 reports of this creature in the last 85 years. One of the first reported sightings of the creature was made back in 1933. It was made by a man and his wife who were on a cruise at the time. The wife is said to have got the attention of her husband because she saw something strange in the water. After observing the creature for several minutes, they realized it was something they hadn't seen before. They described it as looking like a serpent and having the head of a camel. The next sighting happened in 1934. This was when two government members witnessed the creature making commotion in the water. Again, they described it as being serpent-like with a camel head. By this point, the creature started to become known. The next reports were by that of two fishermen who encountered the creature in a bay. What was different about the sighting, though, was that two of the creatures were observed. The fishermen reported that the first one they saw was around 60 feet in length, while the other one was around 25 feet in length. Captain Paul Sowerby is said to have had one of the closest encounters with the creature in 1939. He said the following: "We were heading north and about 30 miles offshore. saw this strange thing standing around 4 feet out of the water. So I headed over to take a close look at it. At first, I thought it was a polar bear with ruffles of hair. When we got right up alongside it, the water was crystal clear, and we realized it was at least 40 feet in length and had huge eyes. I had an old Newfoundlander as a mate, and he said, "Do you see the eyes on him? Mouth and nose? I have no recollection at all. Just those great big eyes." And the eyes seemed to open from top to bottom. Some have compared this creature to the Hucala monster. Over the years, though, sightings still come in from the creature. Explanations for what people are seeing range from jellyfish to oarfish. But it's said that fishermen wouldn't get these creatures mixed up. What do you make of these underwater mysteries? Many people who believe in the unexplained may be familiar with the concept of the hollow earth. This theory states that whilst we live on the planet here, there's a whole world underneath us. Interestingly, these ideas came about from ancient legends and tales. There's said to be whole civilizations living beneath our planet, and that along with people, there are various species of wildlife. This includes animals like birds, lions, and elephants, and prehistoric animals such as mammoths. It's been reported in many of the stories that the people living beneath us are much more advanced, and that the strange objects we sometimes see in the sky are not from extraterrestrials, but rather from this ancient civilization that prefers to stay hidden. The theory of the hollow earth isn't anything new. In fact, these ideas have been around for many years. It's reported that back in the 17th century, some of the best scientific minds suggested that our planet may be hollow. One of the reasons they came to this conclusion was by a carry out of a variety of tests. Various scientific minds suggested that the planet can be compared to that of a shell, and that in certain places the planet is very hollow. Over the years, researchers have been able to discover underground tunnels. These would have been built by ancient civilizations to live in. Scientists and researchers have come forward and said they're not sure why our ancestors built these, further saying that some of them go on for many miles. One of the most interesting accounts in regards to the hollow earth is that of Admiral Richard E. Byrd's story. Going back to 1947, Richard Byrd of the United States Navy would fly directly to the North Pole in a daring mission. Interestingly, it was during this trip that he said he entered the Earth, something that at the time confused many people. The inner Earth would suggest that there was an opening he was able to fly into, and that it must have been big enough for his plane to fit into. He not only said this, but also told of the incredible things he witnessed. He said that once inside the Earth, he was able to see some incredible sightings, some of which include mountain ranges, wildlife, waterfalls, and vegetation. The animals he witnessed, though, were different to our modern-day animals, saying that they looked much larger in size and looked prehistoric. It said that he was able to see a creature that closely resembled that of a mammoth and that it was hiding in the vegetation. Whilst flying above this new world, he was able to find somewhere to land, after which he said that he was greeted by flying machines. They then signaled him to follow them to another location. He described these machines as being much more advanced than his plane and that piloting them were beings much more advanced than any human. Once they reached the location, the beings said that this land is called Agartha. After the long flight, the crew needed rest and the beings were very happy to let them do this. Once rested up, the team were taken to the inner world's ruler. They were told that this wasn't a chance meeting and that they had been trapped the entire time. They allowed them to enter because they wanted to talk to the men about the United States atomic projects, saying that they needed to be stopped as no good is going to come from them. They further said that they had been monitoring the nation and decided that now would be the best time to make contact. This was in hopes of making peace and moving forward to try and create a new and better world, one where such atomic weapons were not needed. The crew was honored that the beings trusted them. After this short encounter, Admiral Byrd and his crew were then taken back to the outside world. After this mind-blowing encounter, their lives would never be the same again. Back in January 1956, Admiral Byrd once again traveled back to this region. This new crew was able to locate an entrance and were able to fly inside. It's reported they were able to get a few thousand miles inside the inner Earth, where once again they encountered the crafts and the beings. As soon as the Admiral arrived back, the American press caught wind of the mission. However, nothing was released, and all information and evidence was eventually lost. The encounter wasn't told by anyone, and those who did mention it were silenced. Unfortunately, although the story is incredible, there's no way to back up the claims of what the men saw. It's an incredible story, and one that will likely be told for the foreseeable future. Another region that's shrouded in mystery is that of Antarctica. Despite being described as one of the most inhospitable locations in the world, the continent of Antarctica is home to more than 4,000 research staff from around the world. These research staff live primarily in research bases, and so the only lasting population of the continent is that of the government-funded research bases. Information gathered from the 2019 Antarctica population census was found that the largest number of research teams come from the United States, 1,293 personnel staff, Argentina with 667 staff, and Russia with 429 staff stations at the peak of summer. This is a very surprising number, given the fact that the continent is covered in a 1-mile thick icy coating. This covers more than 98% of the entire landmass of the continent. What many people might not be aware of is the fact that the driest place on Earth happens to rest in a valley in Antarctica. These are referred to by research scientists as the dry valleys. These areas are so dry that the humidity of the area is next to non-existent and the moisture is lower than most deserts from around the world. This leaves the dry valleys with the inability to form ice, and so is seen as nothing but a vast expanse of dusty land and dirt that's impossible to maintain. This leaves the area in a nearly constant sandstorm, as the wind in the region aren't seen anywhere else in the world. This wind is caused when extremely cold temperatures move down a slope and into the valley, forcing the speed of and reach some of the highest wind speeds ever recorded in the world, maintaining an average speed of 200 miles per hour the entire year. Antarctica is the only place in the world that anyone can visit without the need to supply a travel visa or passport of any kind, making it the only international neutral zone in the entire world. This is due to the fact that the first real attempts at construction on the continent or had some sort of means to make their way to the icy continent. These research scientists came from all around the world and were only interested in one thing: science and discovery. Due to this passion, the original research development teams came together and formed the Antarctic Treaty, a required pact that made it impossible for anyone to make claims of territory and enforce its open knowledge for everyone. It's due to this treaty that governments from around the world refused to even participate into any developments into the icy continent, in fear that their equipment, technology, and infrastructure would just be stolen, reverse-engineered, or completely destroyed by other governments upholding the treaty. One interesting discovery that's been made in the region is that of fossils of ancient trees. After this discovery, researchers were obsessed with uncovering proof of larger life throughout the area. Back in 2010, researchers used techniques in explosives and large-scale blasting to blow out layers of surface rock against that Antarctic mountain. This was to uncover possible fossil layers buried deep within the glaciers throughout the area. After several months of searching and mining for fossils, the research team uncovered exactly what they were hoping to find. It appeared that fossils of ancient dinosaurs inhabiting the region millions of years in the past, roughly around the same time as the Permian extinction, were uncovered after going across various layers in the region. Interestingly, bones of another strange creature have been uncovered that is believed to be that of a species of dinosaurs never found before. According to their reports, the paleontologists accompanying the research team discovered a densely packed grouping of fossils. These belong to different types of dinosaurs referred to as sauropods. Sauropod skulls are usually very rare to find in any other areas as they're very delicate during the life of the creature. Luckily for the team, among the densely packed fossils were that of ribs, arms and legs, and a completely intact skull. Many of these bones have already been rendered in complete 3D imaging technologies, and this will help to preserve their finds for all time. So what do you make of the story of the inner Earth, and do you think it's true? Inside our galaxy, there are a variety of different objects, from the massive to the tiny. Perhaps one of the most interesting of these objects is the black hole. Black holes are believed to be at the center of every known galaxy. There are massive black holes and there are supermassive black holes. When a black hole's mass is bigger than the mass of stars, they're referred to as supermassive black holes. These supermassive black holes aren't just greater in mass than the stars, they're as heavy as the sun. A group of astronomers in Hawaii and New Mexico under the aegis of National Aeronautics and the Space Administration, discovered something mysterious with the aid of their observatory, called the Chandra X-ray. Due to the size of a supermassive black hole, it tends to blast off when it consumes more gas. This was what the team of astronomers witnessed. A galaxy known as J1354 has a black hole at the center. This black hole is 800 million light-years away from Earth. Astronomers have suggested that a passing galaxy was supplying gas to this black hole. This gas caused the black hole to blast off an outflow of energy particles. NASA's team of astronomers also noticed what they suspected as remnant mission close to the center of galaxy J1354. This suggested that there had been a black hole event in that same spot nearly 1 million years ago. Researchers believe that these are the type of emissions that occur from a black hole feasting event, and since the remnants were found near the middle of the galaxy, they serve as proof of the event. Researchers were convinced that they had just witnessed this particular black hole having 2 separate feeding episodes. It feasted on gas, burped and napped, and then it repeated these events once more in the same sequence. The researchers considered it very fortunate that they were able to observe the galaxy during the time when these events could still be clearly seen and proven. The mind-boggling question the scientists had to answer was why the supermassive black hole had 2 separate meals which were at least 100,000 years apart, an event which is very rare and seemed beyond logic. But one of the astronomers was able to give a possible answer. The explanation that was given was based on the fact that the galaxy J1354 has a neighboring galaxy that is connected to it through a flow of gas and stars. As a result of the connection between these 2 galaxies, materials from the other galaxy got pulled into the middle of J1354. This material was then fed to the black hole as its second meal, which resulted in the follow-up sequence. Another amazing space discovery is Holmberg 15A, a supergiant elliptical galaxy found 700 million light-years away from Earth. This galaxy is regarded as the most dominant galaxy at the center of the Abell 85 galaxy. This supergiant galaxy was first discovered in 1937 by a man named Erik Holmberg and was thus named after him. Erik was a Swedish scientist and astronomer. He is widely known for his works which centered on the interactions between different galaxies. He theorized that when galaxies come into close contact and interact with one another, such galaxies are likely to combine and form a much larger galaxy. Holmberg's discovery of the supergiant galaxy, now known as Holmberg 15A, is one of his most famous discoveries to date and one that would help researchers in future years. The galaxy was quite popular at the time, and this was because it was said to have the largest core ever seen in any galaxy. However, this theory was refuted later on. Still, Holmberg 15A's core was estimated to span as far as 15,000 light-years. Secondly, this massive galaxy served as a host to one of the biggest supermassive black holes ever discovered in any galaxy. This supermassive black hole was assumed to be more than 300 billion times the mass of the Sun. This measurement was faulted as it was thought to be far too big. Since the initial measurements weren't exactly accurate and based on further researches, scientists have concluded that the initial measurements were massively overstated. With that being said, this supermassive black hole is still believed to be over 40 billion times the mass of our Sun. This new measurement was more acceptable and considered to be far more accurate than the former. It's hard for us to wrap our heads around these massive sizes. This has made supermassive black holes a very interesting topic of observation for scientists. The black hole which was found at the center of Holmberg 15A might be even larger than astronomers have come to believe. Although this black hole is not the biggest supermassive black hole that has been discovered, it's certainly amongst the biggest. This black hole is believed to have been a result of the combination of 2 black holes, maybe a result of 2 galaxies that came into proximity and merged into a supermassive giant galaxy. This black hole is believed to have been a result of the combination of 2 black holes, which has led scientists to the possibility that Holmberg 15A may be a result of 2 galaxies that came into proximity and merged into a supermassive giant galaxy. Scientists are still researching and trying to investigate the true facts behind this supermassive black hole, which they believe will also provide answers as to the true nature of the Holmberg 15A. Further study will give us more insight into the nature of these massive galaxies and the matter they're able to hold. Another interesting discovery is that of IC 1101. This galaxy has the title of being the universe's biggest galaxy. This galaxy is a supergiant elliptical galaxy and can be found at the center of the Able. It has a distance of more than 1 billion light-years from Earth. It's also characterized as the brightest galaxy in the Able 2029 cluster galaxy. Viewed from Earth, the galaxy is visible from its broad dimensions, although astronomers are of the opinion that the galaxy is in fact shaped like a flat disk. Although IC 1101 is generally believed to be the biggest galaxy in the known universe, there are a lot of reasonable debates as to how accurately such a galaxy should be measured. Nonetheless, the halo of the galaxy is said to reach out to about 2 million light-years from its core, which is approximately 600 kiloparsecs. The mass is measured to be of about the same size as 100 trillion stars, and the galaxy is presumed to host most of these stars. The massive galaxy was first discovered on the 19th of June, 1790 by Frederick William. William was a German-born British astronomer who, after completing his first large telescope in the year 1774, went ahead to study and carry out sky surveys. During one of his surveys, he noticed a new object in the constellation of Gemini. He first thought of it as a cluster of stars, but after weeks of verification and consultations with other astronomers, was later confirmed to be that of a massive galaxy. After its discovery, IC 1101 was analyzed and discovered to be one of the independent galaxies. Researchers and scientists have said that it's managed to get to this size by merging with other galaxies. The last discovery is that of a mysterious diamond planet. Resting a short 40 light-years away from our planet appears to be the largest mass of diamonds ever to exist. Known as 55 Cancri E, their restive planet made almost entirely out of diamonds that is expected to be roughly 8 times the collective mass of our planet Earth. Unfortunately, if you planned on mining the planet to father its precious gems, you would that it's most likely almost entirely covered in lava. The planet is expected to be tidally locked, which means that there rests a permanent day side and a permanent night side, as there's no rotation to create a day and night cycle. This leaves the day side of the planet to be more than 1,700 degrees Celsius in temperature, a temperature more than hot enough to turn iron into a liquid. Its gravity works out to be more than 8 times that of Earth's gravity. And the large amount of data concerning surface temperature variations have been connected to a large amount of possible volcanic activity. This releases large clouds of dust that can plunge whole areas of the planet into darkness. If that doesn't make mining operations seem near impossible, the orbit of the planet around the Sun takes less than 18 hours to complete. This means that an entire year on 55 Cancri E is less than a single day on Earth, making landing and launching to and from the planet nearly impossible to maintain. So what do you make of these interesting space discoveries? Every year, researchers do an incredible job of making new discoveries out in space. One of these that recently made the news is that of FRB 121102. FRB stands for fast radio burst and is a transient radio pulse of length which lies between a fraction of milliseconds to a few milliseconds. They're caused by a high-energy astrophysical process that's not yet entirely understood. FRBs aren't really energetic, but some of these signals that have managed to reach Earth are really weak, with some scientists saying they're 1,000 times weaker than the signal of a mobile phone reaching Earth from the Moon. The first FRB was discovered back in 2007. Many fast radio bursts have been recorded since then, some of which have confused researchers and scientists. If a source with extreme magnetic field emits an FRB, then the FRBs become polarized. The origin of some of these fast radio bursts is unknown, but there's been a lot of speculation of where they come from. Some have put the idea out there that they originate from black holes, whilst others say that a rapidly rotating neutron star produces it. Some have even said that the origin of FRBs are extraterrestrial species. This idea is put forward because of these FRBs seeming to be artificial. There was a case for the most recent one that made the news. This FRB went by the name of 1809116.J0158 and 65. Interestingly, it's made the news because every 16.3 days the signal followed a similar theme. Researchers have looked at the data and said that every 4 days it will spit out a burst and then strangely it will go silent for the next 12 days. Not only would this be strange enough if it happened one time, but scientists have come forward and said that it keeps repeating this cycle, causing some to suggest that it comes across as artificial rather than something that would occur naturally. It's not like this has only been happening for a few days either. Researchers in Canada have said this mysterious fast radio burst has been doing this now for over 400 days. As of right now, the team have admitted they have no idea what it means and that all this discovery has done is adding more questions in regards to fast radio bursts. More study is needed to try and understand what these mysterious radio bursts are and where they're originating from. Some have suggested that these bursts could be messages from other civilizations, and as of right now, researchers haven't ruled this out. It's exciting to think that these could be from an ancient civilization. However, researchers at the moment are just trying to work out why they keep stopping and starting the way they do. These fast radio bursts can last up to several milliseconds. FRB 121-102 was discovered in 2012, and further study helped to improve our understanding of these mysterious signals. The origin of FRB 121-102 is identified to be in a galaxy that's 3 billion light-years away. It's located very far from the Milky Way. The observation of FRB 12102 confirmed the existence of the origin of fast radio pulses by plasma dispersion. As of 2018, FRB 12102 is thought to be located around 3 billion light-years away from Earth. One of the astronomers said that following the multiple flashes that we witnessed in the first repeating FRB, arose from very particular and extreme conditions inside a very tiny galaxy. This discovery represented the first piece of the puzzle, but it also raised more questions than it solved, such as whether there was a fundamental difference between repeating and non-repeating FRBs. The research also detected 15 additional repeating FRBs coming from this fast radio burst, and these varied in frequency. It was suggested that it does not come from only one cataclysmic event. More research is needed to understand this mysterious space anomaly. Another interesting discovery researchers have made is saying that our galaxy is warped. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, holds a lot of mysteries. Galaxies were thought to be flat as everything was on a single plane, but recent research and findings have changed this view. The research has shown that the Milky Way is not flat but warped. Astronomers and scientists were trying to figure out the shape of the galaxy for decades, and now finally, they think they've done it. The research and data took years to put together, but they're now confident that their findings are correct. Astronomers never thought of our galaxy as being this way. They thought it wasn't any different from ordinary galaxies. The findings, however, changed this view. Our Milky Way's twist is indeed rare, but they have already been observed in other galaxies. The scientists further stated that finding the shape of the Milky Way wasn't easy at all and required a lot of hard work. The data and evidence were collected by European Space Agency's Gaia telescope, which created a map of the Milky Way in 2018. It showed researchers that around 1.7 billion stars reside in our galaxy. The research showed that stars in the unwarped area of the galaxy takes a much shorter path to orbit, while those stars found in the warped area takes a longer path. The next discovery is that of Comet 46P. Comet 46P is a small period comet that has an orbital period of 5.4 years. It belongs to the Jupiter family of comets, with a diameter of 1.2 kilometers or 0.75 miles. Comet 46P was discovered in 1948, but due to research as not carrying out continued observations, it took a year to recognize it as a comet. In 2018, the comet passed by our planet. Researchers looking at the data said that this was the brightest approach. It was one of the 10 closest approaching comets in the last 70 years. The study of this comet has piqued the interest of many researchers, and it's even been suggested that we should explore it. The comet became the target of the proposed Comet Hopper mission, and it reached the final stage in the NASA Discovery program. It was the only one of the 3 missions present to have the most detailed study and research. Finally, in 2012, the mission won and was accepted by the InSight mission, which is a Mars lander. The mission was finally ready to be carried out, but by then the comet had moved too far away and would have been very difficult to reach. Due to this, the mission was abandoned. During its close approach, it was visible to the naked eye. There was even some speculation about whether or not this comet would impact our planet. However, NASA came forward and said that this wasn't going to happen. The last discovery is that of at 2018 calories. at 2018 calories is also known as supernova 2018 calories. This supernova was a powerful astronomical explosion, 10 to 100 times bigger than a regular supernova. It was first detected on the 16th of June 2018. This was by the Atlas HKO telescope, and since then many astronomers around the world became interested in it. It was later detected on the 10th of July 2018, but it soon faded. In 2018, two different and independent teams of astronomers concluded that 2018 calories was either a newly formed black hole in progress or rotation of a neutron star. In 2019, another explanation was given that the explosion might be because of a white dwarf being pulled apart by a black hole, or a supernova leaving behind a black hole or a neutron star. According to the astronomers, at the time of the explosion discovery, the temperature of the explosion was 8,900 degrees Celsius, and it traveled at a speed of 20,000 miles per second. There were a lot of possibilities of what it could be, which included a cataclysmic variable star, gamma-ray bursts, gravitational wave, or a supernova. Scientists are trying hard to discover evidence of life out there in the vastness of space. Over the past few years, we've had some breakthrough in our solar system. Recently, we discovered that Mars once had water on it. Due to this discovery, various robots have been sent to the Red Planet to explore its climate and surroundings. The exploration of space is extremely important for our existence. With enough knowledge and technology out there, we can actually travel through space and live on certain planets in the near future. The advent of the age of space will be more than enough to become the major stepping stone of the economics of the future, while seeing a level of prosperity unprecedented in human history. Once it comes, such a boost will never again be seen in future generations to come, and given the fact that SpaceX expects to land a Martian colony by 2025, with NASA shortly to follow in 2030, this reality is more than expected to occur within our collective lifetimes. So what do you make of these interesting space discoveries? Recently, asteroids have been making the news. This is because many of them are coming close to our planet, and although all of them are so far missed, researchers have said that it only takes a little change for them to be knocked onto a different path, one that could see it colliding with our planet. NASA have recently said they're tracking an asteroid that's coming for our planet. It's being called a close approach, and it's said to be here by tomorrow. NASA's automated systems at the Center for Near-of-Object Studies in California is giving researchers constant data about the celestial object. The object is known as Asteroid 2018 GY, and scientists have said that as of right now it's not going to make contact with our planet. However, if it does go off course for any reason, NASA's alert system will let them know. NASA's data has told them the asteroid will come close to Earth on the 12th of March. NASA said the following near-Earth objects are comets and asteroids that have been nudged by the gravitational attraction of nearby planets into orbits that allow them to enter the Earth's neighborhood. Composed mostly of water ice with embedded dust particles, comets originally formed in the cold outer planetary system, while most of the rocky asteroids formed in the warmer inner solar system between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. Potentially hazardous asteroids are currently defined based on parameters that measure the asteroid's potential to make threatening close approaches to the Earth. Another recent asteroid to make the news is that of asteroid 1998 or 2. This space rock is also known because researchers have said that it's the biggest asteroid to come near us this year. Researchers and astronomers have already come forward and said that we've had a number of near-miss events. This giant asteroid is said to pass by our planet in April. Asteroid 1998 or 2 has shown us that it's over 2.5 miles or 4.1 kilometers across. This makes it one of the largest near-Earth objects to pass by us in a while, and you can see why there's some concern about it. If it were to make contact with our planet, it would trigger a chain of events. The next close approach is going to happen on the 29th of April. However, as long as nothing changes, researchers have said it will pass by us. NASA researchers have estimated that it will miss Earth by a couple of million miles. With that being said, measures need to be taken and they have to keep a closer eye on the asteroid's activity. Although this seems very far away in regards to space, it's relatively close. Interestingly though, researchers have said that if the asteroid's current trajectory changes, then this could put it on a collision course of our planet. This asteroid is so big that you will be able to observe it through a telescope. Although this celestial body will miss us by a few million miles, The researchers working on detecting these objects have said it's still important to keep an eye on them. Detecting a celestial body early on is essential to understand what its behavior is like, and if there's a chance, it may stray, of course. So what do you make of these close approaches? The prehistoric world would have been a fascinating place. Everywhere around you would have been impressive creatures, from the giant to the small. Although these ancient relics have been lost to history, every so often we do uncover something that gives us a glimpse into their world. Scientists have recently come forward and said that they've discovered the smallest known dinosaur. Interestingly, this dinosaur wasn't found in the ground, but rather was trapped inside a piece of amber. Amber is a great way for specimens to become preserved, and this is exactly what happened with this tiny dinosaur. One of the team members has described it as the weirdest fossil they've seen and worked on. The bird is trapped inside a piece of amber that's believed to be over 99 million years old. This tiny dinosaur is believed to have been no larger than a hummingbird. Interestingly, the researchers have said that it's given them the opportunity to study the lives of these creatures, and may shed some light into how they made the transition from dinosaurs to birds. Professor Jingmei Okona from the Chinese Academy of Sciences in Beijing said the following: animals that become very small have to deal with specific problems, like how to fit all sensory organs into a very small head, or how to maintain body heat. This tiny new species has been given the name of Auckland dentavis congungarus. One of the things that stood out to the researchers was that of its eye structure. Birds are known for their complex eyes. In this dinosaur's case, though, instead of having square-shaped bones, its were spoon-shaped. It's by far one of the most impressive finds that's been made inside a piece of amber. Professor O'Connor went on to say the following: "It's the weirdest fossil I've been lucky enough to study. I just love how natural selections end up producing such bizarre form. We are also super lucky this fossil survived to be discovered 99 million years later." Dr. Lai Dehang is an associate professor and doctoral advisor from the School of Earth Sciences and Resources at the Chinese University of Geosciences, which can be found in Beijing, and has provided the world with this incredible image. Although these ancient giants have been extinct for many years now, they still interest many of us. And although we know a lot about them, so far there's still an air of mystery around them. The idea that birds, including chickens, evolved from dinosaurs isn't something that's new. This theory has been around since the 19th century. This was when scientists found fossils of a bird with the name of Archaeopteryx. The bird had feathers and wings, but it had the features of a dinosaur. And some fossils found more recently suggest it looks similar to a chicken. Archaeopterytes came onto the scene in the 1860s and surprised researchers when they discovered that it had several unbird-like features. For example, researchers at the time noticed it had sharp teeth, claws on each hand, and a feathery coat. Every year, scientists and researchers are uncovering more dinosaur specimens. They're helping us to better understand what life would have been like millions of years ago. So what do you make of the tiny dinosaur that was discovered inside a piece of amber? Although nature has been documented for many years now, every so often an animal track is found that can't be explained. After further tests, some of these still remain a mystery. One of the most interesting tracks that baffled researchers was found deep in the Congo. The Makol Bembe, when translated, means the one who stops the flow of rivers. It's a mysterious creature that's been mentioned in different stories by the people who live in the Congo River Basin. These people have the most contact with this creature and are said to have encountered it many times. Makol Bembe is often described as a half-dinosaur, half-elephant, and is claimed by people to live in Lake Tell near the Congo River in Africa. No scientific proof has ever been found that such an animal existed, but that hasn't stopped various reports coming out of this area. It's used as a reference by some researchers to prove that dinosaurs and humans coexisted, or that dinosaurs somehow managed to survive in the modern day. Makol Bembe has been described as an elephant-sized creature with smooth, brownish-gray skin, a flexible neck, and a long tail that's as powerful as a crocodile's tail. It's perhaps best known for leaving behind its large footprints, which are known for having 3 claws and leaving deep impressions in the ground. These can be found throughout the swampy jungles of Africa. Over the past 3 centuries, native pygmies and Western explorers have described how the animal used to live. This animal fed on nut-like fruit of a riverbank plant and kept at the deep pools and subsurface areas, like the caves under waters and the unexplored regions of the forests. A recent expedition has shown that these stories have been told for a long time, that the locals very much believe that this creature is real and not a myth. One of the researchers on the team said that it may have been a dinosaur-like brontosaurus, which modern science says has been extinct for over 70 million years. The same researcher, Roy Mackel, had gone deep into the central swamps of the Congo, where it is believed the animal lived. Interestingly, he was able to come back with a photograph of a footprint that is believed to belong to the Makol Bembe. The Forbidden Swamp region is located in the center of the Congo, and it covers an average area of 49,000 square miles, which is as large as New York. The natives told the missionaries where the sauropod dinosaur lived after the missionaries had shown them the animal. They had known about the mysterious animal that lived along the rivers and deep swamp pools, but did not know that it was a sauropod dinosaur until the missionaries told them. This dinosaur-like creature is said to feast on the vegetables and fruits of the jungle. One thing that's been noted is that it doesn't get along well with hippos, and various tribe members have seen these two animals battle it out. In 1999, the Sunday Times of London reported that the people of the Kabanga tribe had managed to take down one of these creatures. Once captured, it was reported that the tribe had killed it. In the fall of 1981, Herman Regustas led a team into Lake Tele and is said to have returned with items belonging to this ancient creature. This included things like footprint casts, droppings, and a mysterious sound which couldn't be pinned to any local wildlife. Reports of Makol Bembe goes all the way back to the 18th century, and since 1980 over 25 expedition teams have been sent in search for the mysterious animal. In 2001, the BBC hosted a program where they interviewed Boca Pygmies. They asked them about the Makol Bembe, and they identified the animal as looking like a sauropod dinosaur, and even sketched it in the soil. The closest animal it could be pinned to is a giraffe. However, no giraffes can be found in this region, and the creature's footprints are far too wide for it to be this species. In 2018, another expedition was sent, with DNA experts to look for clues of the creature. They found nothing that could help them pinpoint the animal, but interestingly, they did discover a new type of algae. Some people have said that this proves there are still many creatures and organisms on the planet that we don't know about. Discover Africa purchased a documentary from an independent young crew in 2016. The documentary showed how the crew spent 4 weeks gathering information from different tribes and villages about the existence of such an animal. Numerous natives believed in its existence, while some said that the last of the species had died at least a decade ago. Bigfoot tracks are being found all over the world. Bigfoot is described as a hairy, upright walking creature that lives in the wilderness. It's commonly seen in North America, and over the years various footprint samples have been collected. Bigfoot has inspired many commercials and numerous hoaxes. Many people who have claimed to have seen Bigfoot describe it as a large muscular ape-like creature, roughly 6 to 9 feet tall. It's an elusive creature that isn't seen that often. The name had come from the huge footprints it leaves behind. The footprints can measure 24 inches long and 8 inches wide. About 1/3 of the sightings of Bigfoot is in Pacific Northwest, while the rest are in North America. The debate of the existence of Bigfoot reached its peak in the 1970s, and this was when Bigfoot sightings reached its highest amount. There are many areas stretching across North America that are often referred to as being hotspots for sightings of the Sasquatch. According to many Bigfoot experts, these concentrated areas get the highest amount of reports of a Bigfoot creature and can span over the course of several years with recurring sightings of the creature. This appears to be the case when analyzing the footage taken on 2 separate occasions by 2 separate individuals at the exact same location in the Utah Hills near Provo Canyon. Back in early 2012, a hiker noticed a large Sasquatch creature sitting on the side of a hill and seemingly playing with a small tree. He quickly turned on his camera but made a noise which caused the Sasquatch to stand up, attempt to hide behind the thin trees, and begin throwing rocks at the cameraman. Many Bigfoot experts claim the footage to be genuine, given the elongated arms indicating that the creature couldn't have been a man in a suit due to the fact that it picks up large rocks and throws them a great distance, a behavior reported in many other Bigfoot encounters. Shortly after, the cameraman begins running away in fear of the Bigfoot creature. Interestingly enough, a few months later in October of 2012, In the exact same spot, the A brother and sister spotted a large, furry beast sitting on the side of a hill. They took out their cameras, believing it to be a large black bear. As they got closer, the creature stood up and began making screeches similar to that of a large gorilla. Though the footage lasts no more than a minute, the quality of the video evidence shows the exact same location as the previous footage and shows the creature standing at a towering 10 feet tall, but proves that the area in and around Provo Canyon appears to be a hotspot location for Bigfoot activity. The Yeti is a creature that's been reported to live in the Himalayas for thousands of years. In pre-19th century, the Yeti was a part of the pre-Buddhist beliefs of several Himalayan people. In 1832, some local guides spotted a tall creature covered in long dark hair which seemed to flee after noticing them. An early record of footprints appeared in the Himalayas in 1899, but it was concluded that it belonged to a bear. The frequency of such reports increased in the 20th century, when Westerners started scaling the Himalayas. Although diverse wildlife was often reported, there were occasionally some reports of strange creatures that would tower above the average human. These giant creatures would also leave behind large footprints, some of which couldn't be linked to any animal in the region. Western interest in the Yeti peaked dramatically in the 1950s. This was when Eric Shipton and his team attempted to climb Mount Everest. Whilst here, Eric Shipton took photographs of a number of large footprints in the snow that he thought belonged to the Yeti. Some argue that these are the best evidence for the existence of the creature. In 2004, editor of the journal Nature mentioned the Yeti as an example of a legend deserving further study and writing. In 2007, American television presenter Joshua Gates and his team reported finding the footprints in the Everest region of Nepal. Some of the footprints measured 33 centimeters or 13 inches in length and having 5 toes that measured 25 centimeters or 9.8 inches. Later in 2009, after a lot of research was done on the footprint, a hair was found. Gates presented the hair sample to the public and told the people that the hair contained unknown DNA. So what do you make of these mysterious footprints? Astronomers have come forward and said they've discovered a supermassive black hole. Although these are known in the scientific world, this one is a little bit different. In fact, this massive celestial object appears to be the oldest of its kind. The team behind its discovery also noted that it appears to be aiming a massive particle beam towards Earth. This newly discovered black hole goes by the name PSO J030947.49 and 27.045. This blazer, which is an active galactic nucleus with a jet, is the most distant one the researchers have found. Researchers have shown massive interest in blazars. They can help us learn about high-energy astrophysics and the properties of accretion disks and jets. Astrophysicist Silvia Belladetta from the University of Insubria in Italy said the following: the spectrum that appeared before our eyes confirmed for us that PSO J0309-27 is actually an active galaxy nucleus, or a galaxy whose central nucleus is extremely bright due to the presence in its center by a supermassive black hole fed by the gas and the stars it engulfs. In addition, the data obtained by the Large Binocular Telescope also confirmed that PSO J0309-27 is really far away from us. According to the shift of the color of its light towards red, or redshift, with a record value of 6.1, never measured before for a similar object. Interestingly, researchers have said that the light picked up on from this black hole took over 13 billion years to reach us. This means this supermassive black hole has been around since the early beginnings of the Big Bang. Although many might be well aware of the large supermassive black hole at the center of our responsible for the movement of the entire spiral-shaped galaxy, many are completely unaware of what is known as the Great Attractor. The Great Attractor refers to an unknown space anomaly discovered to be at the center of a supercluster. Unfortunately, scientists can't explain or get better information regarding the Great Attractor as it appears to be in the zone of avoidance, which means that the majority of the space there is completely obscured by the energy created by the Milky Way galaxy. Gravitational measurements, however, show that the Great Attractor is not only pulling our own galaxy towards it, but all of the nearby galactic superclusters in our area. Although many scientific reports believe the majority of surrounding space to be moving away from us at an increasing speed, many people believe that this might be tied to the gravitational force of the Great Attractor, pulling the majority of the galaxies around us into its gravitational well. Estimates believe that the Great Attractor is a supermassive black hole that dwarfs the singularity at the center of our galaxy by thousands of light-years in distance. Information surrounding this theory is incredibly limited, however, by the zone of avoidance, and it looks like scientists won't be able to truly give scientific insight as to the cause until the human race learns the ability to travel outside of the Milky Way galaxy. This ultimately means that despite this natural phenomenon being the most influential event on our local galactic supercluster, humans may never learn the true nature as to its cause for the foreseeable future. So what do you make of these interesting space discoveries? The recent project by the name of the Dark Energy Survey has made an interesting discovery. It turns out the data has shown scientists the small objects out near Neptune. The astronomers said this data revealed over 300 minor planets, and these are all new to science. These discoveries were made using new techniques and allowed the researchers and scientists to reach the edges of the solar system. It's been suggested this may even help astronomers shed light on the mysterious Planet 9. They've described an object as being large and lurking in the outer reaches past Neptune. Interestingly, although NASA are now coming forward in saying this, allegedly theorists who studied ancient maps and calendars have said that our ancestors were aware of this object thousands of years ago. NASA have described it as being something large and that it's lurking in the far reaches of the solar system. Interestingly, recent studies have shown that whatever this object is actually having an effect on the Kuiper Belt rocks, which can be found close to Neptune. This excited many, as for years there have been theories surrounding whether there was a mysterious Planet 9, and these recent revelations have proved there is something out there having effects on matter close by. Some astronomers have suggested this planet has around 5 to 6 times the mass of the Earth. This is because of how hard it is to spawn. It's slow and tedious work, as researchers currently don't know where to look. The planet will be very faint, and it's one of the reasons behind why it's so tough to pinpoint. Interestingly, though, researchers have said the secrets behind this planet might be in some old records. According to a recent study, scientists have said that NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite, also known as TESS, could be the place to look for this information, saying that in its records the satellite may have recorded details of the planet. One of the issues with this, though, is that TESS is used for looking for planets way past our solar system. It does this by looking for and registering dips in the sky. This will tell us that a planet is orbiting around its star. This wouldn't happen for Planet 9, though, as it's much closer to our solar system and would be much harder to pick up on. With that being said, researchers noted that TESS is pointed at one particular part of the sky for a long period of time, and there is a slight chance that Planet 9 may have passed by the satellite. The Dark Energy Survey took place between August 2013 and January 2019. It was able to collect over 5 years' worth of data, which researchers have said could reveal some incredible new sights our solar system has to offer. It seems that every week space agencies are making the news. In the last few years alone, they've discovered an incredible amount of planets, nebulas, galaxies, and a vast array of other celestial objects. NASA will soon be traveling to Mars in order to drill deep in the rocks. This is in the hopes of finding evidence of living organisms on the red planet. Interestingly, Mars could be the home to current life. As the space agency has expressed much interest in the planet over the years, along with upcoming space agency SpaceX, who have said that they plan to put humans on the red planet within the next few years. The researchers will be studying the data and seeing if they can find out more about these mysterious new planets. So what do you make of these new planets? UFOs have been the topic of much discussion in the last few years, and although many don't believe they exist, there exists a large number of photographs of them. These are taken by everyday people who happen to witness these mysterious objects in the sky. The fact is, the majority of these objects do get explained away. However, every so often, a mysterious photograph that can't be explained right away makes the rounds on social media. This is what happened last year when Secure Team published a video on this mysterious anomaly. When first looking at the images, it does look like a typical crash site. You can see a large object covered in snow with a trail behind it. This immediately caused the UFO community to point out that this could possibly be a crash site. Over the years, there's been various reports of unidentified flying objects that have allegedly made contact with our planet. It's also fueled a lot of speculation, as according to many theorists, Antarctica is home to many mysterious happenings. The original photograph was found via Google Earth and shows an area known as South Georgia Island. It quickly spread across various websites, with everyone giving their opinion on what the object could be. There's even some that have now come forward and said that the object looks similar to a Oumuamua, mysterious space rock that was discovered in our solar system back in 2017. People were quick to say that this photo could be the real deal, however others weren't so sure. One user said that if you zoom out there's a mountain really close by, going on to say that what most likely happened is some ice fell from the mountain and skidded in the snow. This led behind a trail that made it look like a crash. The user then followed up with a question. What's the more likely event? An unidentified flying object crashing to the ground, or some ice becoming dislodged from a nearby mountain? Geologist Richard Waller from Kiel University got involved and said that his explanation is most likely, further saying that it's not aliens, but Earth just being Earth. It looks as though this feature is related to a large avalanche from a nearby mountain. Part of a hanging glacier appears to have, and this could be a large block of ice that has traveled further as a consequence. The track shows that it's sliding over a snow-clad glacier before it comes to a rest. Although some didn't expect this explanation, saying that you can clearly see it's a craft, many said that this explanation explains what happened. However, as some have pointed out, just because this one event got explained, it doesn't mean the rest gets solved. For the last few decades, there's been various stories of people seeing giant crafts crash landing. Many have referred to the Ilkley Moor incident as one of the most compelling pieces of evidence surrounding the claims of alien abduction. This is due in part to the photographic evidence that had been gathered of the event by the witness that claimed he had later been abducted by the extraterrestrial being that he had encountered. According to the alien report, a man by the name of Philip Spencer had moved to the West Yorkshire area after leaving his old job to be closer to his family. Prior to this move, Philip had worked as a police officer for more than 4 years and was more than respected as a hard-working and honest citizen. During his move to West Yorkshire, he'd noticed a strange number of lights often seen in the fog. Many others would confirm the sightings of strange lights as well, but would often retort that it was probably lights from airplanes flying around the military bases and airports. These strange claims led Philip to buy a high-end camera at the time. This was an attempt to gather evidence of these foggy lights and looking to the increasingly weird rumors being told throughout the area. As Philip then went out the next day in the early morning to capture some pictures, he began to notice that the same strange figure was following him in the fog. He would then quickly snap a photo of the creature, only to find that it was a small humanoid, almost alien-like creature that had been running through the fog near him. Without thinking, he chased the entity until he noticed a large dome-shaped aerial craft lift from the ground near him and take off into the sky. It wasn't long before Philip then began running back into town, noticing that more than an hour had gone between his sighting of the craft and the moment shortly after it disappeared. Today, the picture taken proves to be one of the biggest pieces of evidence of small gray aliens often reported by alien abductees. Many have claimed that the lost amount of time experienced by Spencer may have been in an abduction event that was later wiped from his memory after the encounter, shrouding that time in complete mystery. Another interesting report is that of the Height 611 incident. During the reign of the Soviet Union, there was a tremendous number of sightings and UFO incidents that were cast aside and forgotten about. This was due to the fact that the government of the Soviet Union worked tirelessly to hide evidence of extraterrestrials from its citizens. This was because they believed that their people would start to worry and panic if they discovered there were higher powers that extended beyond the power and control of the Soviet Union. Because of this, many of these incidents are not well known, even amongst dedicated members and researchers of the alien community. Occurred back in 1986 on the 29th of January. This was in the small town of Delnyagorska. According to the residents of the town, a strange reddish orb of a massive size was spotted at around 8 p.m. This orb had passed over the town. This reddish orb was described as being half as large as the moon overhead and appeared to have been similar in color and luminescence to that of a dark red flame. Eyewitnesses also noted that as the object blew parallel to the ground, it made no noise of any kind, and it passed over something that seemed impossible to accomplish, even with the most advanced aircraft imaginable. Using specified witness timeframes and the flight path of the object, investigators calculated that the orb flew at approximately 34 miles per hour, and that it was flying roughly 700 to 800 meters above the ground. As the object continued its flight path overhead, it suddenly began descending quickly and crashed into the side of the mountain located near the town. Oddly enough, every witness reported that not only did the object crash into the side of the mountain, but it caused a massive amount of fire. Strangely though, this fire and the object soon vanished after the incident. Others came forward and said the craft was moving much faster than any conventional aircraft for that time. Further investigation yielded interesting results, as some rocks at the impact site had drops of lead that had previously been molten before solidifying on the rocks in the cold. Not only this, but rare earth minerals were also recovered in the vicinity that were not naturally found in any types of deposit on the mountain previously. Unfortunately, the pictures taken by investigators at the time, when later developed, turned out to be black, almost as if they had been swapped out entirely and replaced with fresh in an effort to cover up the evidence gathered at the location of impact. The official explanation provided by the Soviet Union at the time was that a meteorite had recently impacted the site. They said that this explained the strange findings of the rare earth metals and strange chemical composites. However, the provided explanation had failed to explain the eyewitness accounts of the event, as well as the fact that sightings of strange red orbs landing on the mountainside would continue at the site for the next few years. This has caused some to speculate that what crashed into the mountain was in fact an unidentified flying object. The government then tried to cover up what happened that day, even though a large amount of people were witnesses to what had occurred. In the following years, similar colored UFOs have been reported around the world. Researchers have given them the name of UFO orbs, and witnesses that have observed them said they are capable of outperforming any craft we have on Earth. They've been seen traveling at very high speeds, being able to change colors, shooting up vertically and disappearing within seconds. It's things like this that have made people suggest that they're not our craft, and that whatever controls them is much more intelligent than us. Various people have come forward with their own encounters with these mysterious orbs. Many detail that they seem to follow them and are interested in what they're doing. They've compared these objects to silent drones, saying that unless you see one, you won't know it's there. Usually when they're spotted, they leave the area quickly. So what do you make of these mysterious reports? Many will agree that Bigfoot is the most famous of all the cryptids. This mysterious giant humanoid has been in the mainstream media for the last few decades, and although scientists firm on their belief that the creature is a hoax, many interesting reports have surfaced over the years. These creatures always follow a similar theme, looking like a giant ape-like human and being very tall. Depending on who you talk to depends on the creature's height. But most can agree that Bigfoot's average height is between 7 and 10 feet tall. At the height of the Bigfoot craze, various expeditions were put together by various companies from across the world. It was almost like a battle of who could capture the best Bigfoot evidence first, kind of similar to the space race. But instead of landing on the moon, this involved a mythical creature that had allegedly been witnessed for thousands of years. All over the planet, people have been reporting these creatures, with some finding some giant footprints to a few being able to photograph the creature. The most interesting stories, though, comes from those people who've had first-hand experience with the creature. One of the issues people have, though, is that the large majority of these stories have no evidence, but every so often a story will be told that has evidence to back it up. In the last few days, these fascinating images have been making the rounds on Life. I was able to speak to the person who captured the images, and he's allowed me to share his story. Mr. Yeoman said the following about the event. Here's the story with my photos. My wife and I bought 11 acres of land in Bailey, Colorado. We built a foundation of cylinder block that is 6 feet above the ground. The land is mostly hard-packed dirt and large rock, which I shared a video of when we bought it. After we moved our modular home there, we lived off and on there for 2 years. This was while we got ready for permanent residency. In August 2017, we were finishing off the interior of the back of the house, and I came into the living room and caught a whiff of a very harsh odor in the room. It smelled like rotting animal flesh, vomit in excrement. I caught a glimpse of something moving outside the window from the corner of my eye. We have had bears visit pretty regularly, but they tried to get under the house, not in it. But when I saw the figure by the window, I thought it was a bear, and that it had somehow climbed up the window. I take a lot of wildlife pictures because they literally come up to the outside of it. This includes animals such as mule deer, elk, and bears. However, I haven't seen any mountain lion and other small game. I've quite a few cars all over my property, but they aren't mine, but they hang out there a lot. Going back to the creature, I saw the top of the head and it caught my attention. It moved closer and I could see this, eyes were huge. This scared me because bear eyes aren't that large or far apart. I always have a camera handy to get a good shot of the elk when they come close to the house. When I realized it wasn't a bear, fear struck me. I used a cheap Kodak Sport digital camera for taking pictures, and for the most part it takes fast action pictures and videos. It was on the end of the table next to my recliner, approximately 6 feet from the window. When I pointed it at the window, it stopped swaying and closed its eyes as if it was a child. It reminded me of when children do that thing, you can't see me if my eyes are closed. I was shaking a lot and tried to video at the same time. I moved back a step and it slowly moved from one side of the window to the other. It was seriously around a 10-minute video, but it was on a small card which had to be downloaded onto my computer. It didn't make any attempt to enter the house or run away. Around 8 minutes in, my wife came into the room and asked what I was doing. I told her there's something outside and it wasn't no bear. When she looked over my shoulder, she screamed, "What is that thing?" and ran back into the bedroom. I stopped the video, went to the closet and grabbed my 40 calories of the gel. When I turned back around, it was moving away from the window. I wasn't going to shoot at it unless it tried to get in, which it didn't do. I went to my wife, who was freaking out, and tried to answer her bombardment of questions, and tried to reassure her that everything was okay. She called the sheriff's department, and they sent 3 deputies to check out the property. Their conclusion was that it was most likely a bear or of a wildlife. This was, however, until I showed them the playback. When they reviewed it, 2 of the 3 were impressed, and the 3rd just said it was a bear. The rest of the night was uneventful and peaceful, other than my wife panicking. She ended up having my daughter and her husband come and get her, and they took her to Golden for a couple of days. I downloaded this video onto my computer at my mother's house. This was because she had internet access and I didn't. Long story short, my mother's house burnt down in a fire we had out there last year. We have seen it at a distance every now and then in the darkness by the firelight. Not the body but the eye shine, and that's pretty creepy too. But I haven't had any instance of a destructive nature, so I decided just to be cautious when I'm walking my property. I do carry my faulty kel always outside. This is just in case, but I haven't had to pull it from my holster. I see signs where it's broke branches on trees that I can't reach on a 6-foot ladder, and occasionally he'll move things around. Most signs we see were after we left and came back home. There's the story behind the photos. I hope people can find something in there to benefit them if they're dealing with one too. These pictures were taken from the video to show the best shots because I was shaking like hell. Many people came forward and said that they believe what Mr. Yeoman saw, and even told of similar encounters. Many people in Bigfoot forums have said that they are by far the best Bigfoot photographs they have seen, and that they believe his story to be genuine. It doesn't sound like he's trying to convince anyone about what happened, but rather just putting his encounter out there for others to hear. There are many areas stretching across North America that are often referred to as being hotspots for seeing a Bigfoot. These locations have been named by the Bigfoot community, and every year people have come forward with their own sightings of the creature. According to many Bigfoot experts, these concentrated areas get the highest amount of reports of a Sasquatch creature, and can span over the course of several years with reoccurring sightings of the creature. Interestingly, researchers have said that these creatures don't just go by the name of Bigfoot, and there's actually different species of these large humanoids that roam our planet. One of them goes by the name of the Grassman, and these creatures are usually seen close to Ohio. Often encountered in the woods of this region is that of a cryptid that's commonly been referred to by the locals as the Grassman monster. The Grassman monster, also known as the Orangite, is a massively large and hairy man-like creature that many have compared to that of Sasquatch sightings. Unlike many of the other Bigfoot sightings all across the world, It appears that the Grassman cryptid is far more dangerous and has a number of strange behaviors that make it unique to all other Sasquatch creatures. Many that have claimed to have stumbled across the beast while hiking through the forest claim the Grassman is capable of constructing small huts and areas for living, a unique behavior that has never been reported surrounding that of the Sasquatch species. It's because of this strange behavior that many report the creature is not that of a Sasquatch and of a different crypt entirely. The first well-reported sighting of the Grassman monster happened back in 1978. This was when several kids ran into their home and alerted their grandparents that a hairy man was digging through a rubbish pit. When the grandparents went to investigate what was being claimed, they saw the large Grassman as he was digging through rubbish looking for food. However, the large creature soon ran away after being spotted by the adults. As research continued in the area surrounding that of the Grassman, people began to report spotting a large ape-like creature living in hearts made of tall grass, only to come back to the site later to find it completely abandoned, with the creature moving to new areas after being spotted. One person said the following about the photographs. These photos look exactly like what I saw while camping with my friends. When I first looked at the photographs, it sent shivers down my spine. The resemblance to the creature I saw is uncanny. I immediately showed my friends this photograph and they began to freak out. Our encounter happened back in 2017 while camping in Pennsylvania. We planned to stay for a day or two as we hadn't seen each other for a while. We set up camp and started to get a fire going. While it was getting dark, we started to talk about more out there topics, and this led on to us each giving details about the mysterious things we'd seen during our lives. I hadn't seen anything strange myself, but my friends had experienced some weird stuff during their lives. While one of my friends was halfway through their story, we could hear these strange noises coming from the woods. If I had to describe, I would say it sounded like a low grunting sound. I told the group that it was most likely some type of wildlife. This noise continued, but we wasn't worried as it sounded like it was quite far away. Around 15 minutes later, after those noises started, they completely stopped. However, after a few minutes, a loud screech could be heard coming from behind our camp. This noise was really loud and it made us all jump. I'd never heard anything like this before, and judging by my friends' faces, neither had they. We all froze in place, hoping that whatever just made those noises wouldn't do it again. We could hear some noises coming from behind the woods, so one of my friends grabbed their torch and shined it in the direction of the noises. This was when we got a sight of the creature making the loud noises, and it was something that none of us had seen before. The only way I can describe it is that it looked like a giant hairy ape-like human. After we shined the light in the direction of the humanoid, it soon ran off. After this, we all jumped in the car, leaving behind the majority of our belongings. Whatever we'd encountered left a mark on all of us. This wasn't something we were laughing about. It had a lasting effect on all of us, to the point where I didn't want to leave the house for several months. I was genuinely scared by whatever this creature was. I still have its image in my mind. I don't think it's something that I'm going to forget anytime soon. As of right now, I've never seen anything similar. This is because I won't venture near any woodland areas. I think that these creatures do exist, and I'm the first to admit that before my sighting I never believed they existed. I thought they were made up by people, but now I've seen one with my own eyes that's completely changed my view on them. I have no idea why it didn't attack us, as this thing was massive. In fact, to guess, I would say it was easy over 7 feet in height. It possessed a very wide frame and had long brown hair. As of today, I think that what I witnessed was a big vent. So my question to you guys is, what do you make of these mysterious photographs? The oldest, most complete gospel book on earth is in Ethiopia. Abba Garima, who was one of the 9 saints, created an Orthodox church in Ethiopia in the 6th century. The Ethiopian church was built by King Maskell. The church is called Abba Garima Monastery. Inside the monastery were 2 Garima Gospels, Garima 1 and Garima 2. The Garima Gospels had a manuscript that was used in the year 500. Judging by the year the manuscript was composed, it's been noted by historians that this is the oldest and most complete gospel book. Abba Garima, whom the gospel book was named after, didn't originate from Ethiopia. History has it that he migrated to Ethiopia from Syria in 494 CE. His arrival at Ethiopia didn't come in silence, as his name was soon spread like wildfire. Began to perform what seemed like a miracle to the people of Aksum. He healed the sick and turned the people to Christians. It was during this time, history reported that Abba Garima started writing and completed the Gospel book. History also revealed that the Garima Gospel was written in a single day. One question is, how was that possible? It was said that the sun refused to set until the book was complete. This was believed to be a sign that God loved Abba Garima. One report states that the images, symbols, and writings were that of Egyptian. This isn't an issue as the book has now been translated. One interesting thing to note is that this book is full of mysteries. Apart from the fact that the book could be regarded as the first version of bookbinding, the book has withstood a lot of tragedies and environmental disaster. Some of these are fires and invasions. The Abba Garima Monastery Church was engulfed in fire in the year 1930 and badly damaged the building. Interestingly, though, the book didn't go down with the flames. This has caused some to suggest that the book is protected by God. It is currently displayed inside a glass case in the monastery church in Ethiopia. Another interesting discovery is that of a book made of human skin. This book can be found at Harvard University. Over the years, some mysterious books have been discovered. One of the most mysterious ones goes by the name of Destinies of the Soul. Researchers have said that it's been housed at the library since the 1930s. It's said that Dr. Boole N was given the book by a friend. It's then reported that he bound the book with skin from the body of a female patient. Further studies have suggested that the patient passed away from natural causes. Bill Lane, who is the director of the Harvard Mass Spectrometry, said the following: "The analytical data makes it very unlikely that the source could be anything other than human. It's the outside of this book that makes it unique. It was always assumed that this book had human skin on it, but over the years researchers have debunked some of these books, saying that instead of human skin is actually animal skin. This one, however, was confirmed by experts. It's not just this book that's been found at Harvard Library. It turns out that employees came across 3 books that had strange covers. They described the books as having a smooth feeling and being a little shiny. Some described the books as being similar to leather, but less shiny. It turns out, though, that scientists wanted to confirm what these books were made of, and they decided to carry out a series of tests. After receiving the results, the scientists concluded with 99.9% confidence that the binding material came from a human. It turns out that after some research, these bound skin books were popular in the 17th century. They were most commonly found on anatomical textbooks. It's also said that going back then, they didn't want to waste any material they were working with, so instead of things going to waste, they used them for things like books. Researchers said the books were about Roman poetry, French philosophy, and medieval Spanish law. Harvard then decided to get all of the books tested, and it turns out that one of them was bound in human skin. Harvard's library isn't the only place where these types of books have been discovered. They can be found all over the world. However, they're not getting negative attention, as it's not something many have come across. As mentioned, though, going back, it wasn't uncommon for people to do this to books. Various 19th century accounts exist that state executed criminals were donated to science, meaning some of their skins would have ended up on books. The last book revolves around that of the paranormal. For years now, stories have been told about the paranormal, and even today people are allegedly encountering otherworldly beings. One interesting story details a monk who had to make the ultimate sacrifice to finish a book. Throughout human history, there have been many that have claimed to fight against the devil himself, and one ultimately securing their faith in their beliefs of a divine power. There appears to be just as many stories in which people divulge their sudden success in wealth and power, and credit it to that of selling their souls and making a deal with the devil. Although at first the individual appears to reap the rewards, their fate is ultimately sealed when they sign away their life. Although this sounds outlandish, there have allegedly been many people that have made deals with the devil in the hopes of bettering themselves or getting riches without putting work in. In some of these cases, these individuals have signed their life away in order to pay a debt or perform an incredible feat, and this is exactly what this person did. One of the most well-known stories concerning that of a person making a deal with the devil is the existence of the fabled Codex Gigas. The Codex Gigas, also referred to as the Devil's Bible, was supposedly written by the devil himself after a desperate monk summoned him in exchange for his life. According to the legend, back in 2013 AD, a monastery in Bohemia that made up the monks of the Black Cloth, a radical Christian group of whom devoted their belief to God by performing gruesome acts of starvation, isolation, and self-mutilation, accepted the terms outlined by one monk who promised to write the greatest book in a single night. The reason for this promise was due to the fact that the monk of the monastery had broken such a sacred rule of their monastery, that the sin itself was covered up. After the other monks had covened, they decided that the punishment for the monk would be to wall him up alive, essentially trapping him into a mausoleum. This led the monk to quickly promise the monastery that he could earn redemption by crafting the largest book that held all of human knowledge, including magic, medicine, information on herbs, as well as the entire Bible in only one night. The monastery agreed to this outlandish promise on the basis of making a deal with the monk. They would allow him a chance at redemption if he could create the book in one night, but that if he failed, they would continue with their punishment regardless. This led to the monk working throughout the night in a moment of panic, gathering all of the supplies necessary and finding the massive book before realizing it would be humanly impossible to complete the task. In his desperation, he performed a dark ritual and summoned the devil himself. He promised the devil his soul if the devil would use his supernatural powers to create a book and save him from death. The devil accepted the deal and wrote the entire book in a single night, fulfilling the promise and saving the life of the monk. Interestingly, in the modern day, when experts took the time to look over the book, they found overwhelming evidence that the entire book was written by a single author in an incredibly short amount of time. The expected amount of time to work on such a massive book was expected to be more than a single author's lifetime. However, the entire piece has a consistent style of writing of which is only possible to accomplish by having a lone author, using the same type of ink made in the same way, as is common with books with a single author, and has an entire page of a drawing of the devil as a reference to the credit of the author. The eerie drawing has caused some to speculate the story is true, and that the devil drew his self-image in order to prove he was the real author of the book. So what do you make of these mysterious books? UFOs are a topic that have fascinated many people. It's important to remember, though, that when talking about this topic, UFOs are simply unidentified flying objects. Every year thousands of them get reported, of which the large majority do end up getting solved after being investigated. However, every so often a report will emerge in which the individual claims to have encountered the beings allegedly flying these crafts. This is what happened to one person in 1994. The Mutual UFO Network is a US-based company that helps people report their UFO sightings. Every year they get thousands of reports from people across the globe, detailing the mysterious encounter that leaves them wanting answers. This interesting case occurred in Clinton, Tennessee back in 1994, and was recently published to the MUFORM website. It's reported that a 9-year-old boy had just finished his Saturday night shower. As his mother was working, he was staying for the weekend with his grandparents. He wanted to play, so he fetched his tub of toys. He went down the hallway, but something began to come over him. It was a paralyzing fear that something or someone was watching his every move. His bedroom was at the end of the hall, but the boy had to pass the study. And it was this room that was creating the sense of fear. The hallway and the study were both dark, something that didn't help the situation. The boy slowly walked to the doorway of the study and looked inside the window. There was a street light illuminating the exterior. There were two faces looking through the window into the study, staring at the boy. The two faces were that of small-looking creatures possessing large eyes and a thin body. These are known today as the Greys or Zetas. One of these thin gray-looking creatures was around 4 feet tall, and the one to the right of it was around 5 to 6 feet tall, something that some have noted is a little bigger than most gray encounters. The taller being had a smaller head and a long, thin neck. The being on the right side had an unusual mannerism and would look very slowly from left to right, as if it were searching for something or someone else in the room. Then a third long-necked gray appeared to the left of the short gray and started to press its face to the window pane. The witness just stood there in shock and disbelief with his tub of toys in hand. He was less than 20 feet away from these 3 gray beings. As of right now, it's not known what this boy encountered, But UFO researchers have said these creatures seem to be interested in humans. All of these accounts include witnesses seeing similar beings. These small humanoids have been reported for decades, and no one is sure what exactly it is they want. The majority of encounters have left eyewitnesses terrified, and although the psychological effects can be damaging, not many have reported being harmed by these creatures. As of today, researchers have continued to look into the phenomena in the hopes of uncovering what these individuals are encountering. So what do you make of this story? If someone is looking for information that is not publicly available, they can submit a Freedom of Information Act request. You have to detail what you seek and why you want it, and in some cases many do end up getting replies or the information they were looking for. It doesn't always result in the individual getting what they want, but it does sometimes happen. This has caused various people to submit these requests in the hopes of getting the answers they seek. As reported by various outlets, most federal agencies now accept a Freedom of Information Act request electronically, including by web form or email. If the agency agrees to your terms and the reason behind you wanting the information, you will usually get a reply with the document you seek attached. However, in some rare cases, some get more information than what they originally asked for. This is what happened to one individual who asked the Washington State Fusion Center about information on Extreme Group. This report was first posted by Mark Runk, and they detailed how the Washington State Fusion Center accidentally released the wrong documents. Some of these documents included information on topics such as that of remote mind control. The individuals said they posted the standard Freedom of Information request, but got a bit more than what they asked for. Inside the email was attached an EMFX on the human body. It's fair to say that whoever sent these documents made a monumental error. It's no secret that the government carries out a variety of experiments and tests. The majority of the time these are kept under wraps, and the general public don't end up hearing about them. But this was one of those times where a human error caused a leak in information, and one that they most probably regretted. According to the documents, they detailed out of psychoelectronic weapons and remote mind control. The journalist behind the original request, Mr. Waltman, then decided to open the files. Inside were a variety of illustrations that showed different devices and techniques. These devices were created with the sole purpose of manipulating the human mind. One such weapon detailed how it uses electromagnetic forces to mess with the human body. Essentially, this device causes intense pain to the individual it's used on. Although these files are fascinating, it's also kind of scary. There have been whispers of these kinds of devices being used. When it's on paper, though, and sent to you by government officials, it becomes all the more interesting. As some have pointed out, why would they have this paper if it was made up? One individual claimed that the National Security Agency has the ability to take down U.S. citizens, and they can do this by using psychological control operations. This can essentially cause everyday people to come across as insane. But this isn't their normal behavior. They're just reacting to the electronic device that's being used on them. Some handy technology if you're trying to make someone come across as being insane. The documents even go into detail remote brain mapping, even going as far as showing an illustration of a van outside a house, and sending electronic waves into people's brains and houses. Some have said that what they're doing is hitting you with these waves and they're broadcasting your thoughts. It's not known where this information goes, but it could be into some kind of system. Again, this is just going by what the document says. This isn't something that's been made up, and the crazy thing is that the individual didn't even ask for these documents. They were accidentally sent to him. Mark Rock went on to say that he doesn't think the files are official, but does admit that it's a little strange how they ended up in their request. Others have gone on to say that this is evidence that they carry out these types of tests on the population, with others suggesting they use this technology to interrogate people. As some have pointed out, though, it does seem like a strange link. You can clearly see when files are attached to emails, and to release this kind of information was only going to lead to out there theories being thrown out. Another interesting case that was recently announced was that of Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla has easily become known as one of the greatest minds of the modern era. At the time, his unique mind wasn't appreciated. It's only been in the years following his death that people respected what he was trying to achieve. Nikola Tesla wasn't one to shy away from electricity and being able to harness it. He also worked on anti-gravity technology and something that became known as the ether. One of his famous quotes was the following: "I have worked out a dynamic theory of gravity in all details, and hope to give this to the world very soon." As with many of the great minds of the past, there's a lot of people today that don't understand the impact they had on modern-day life. Recently, the FBI released 64 pages of unreleased documents. This includes things like papers and documents that were collected shortly after Tesla passed away. For many years now, theories have been floating around as to why Tesla's work was collected by the government. Some have said that Tesla's work wasn't important and wouldn't have impacts on us. If this was the case, then why did the United States government quickly swoop in and collect his work? These papers would cause many theorists to put forward their ideas on what the papers contained. One of the main reasons people believe they collected his work is because he created an incredible machine, a type of ray that would have been able to take down enemies from miles away. Tesla's work obviously caught the attention of the FBI, as they wanted to comb through what he'd been working on. One of their reasons for doing this was to ensure that any work of his didn't get into the wrong hands. For this reason, they decided it would be best if the documents remained in the property of the Office of Alien Property Custodian. This was, however, until the documents and other pieces of Tesla's work mysteriously disappeared after the war. Interestingly enough, discussion had been created that the public was aware of some of these alleged inventions, and it caused citizens to question Director J. Edgar Hoover about what test we've been working on. These are some extracts from the official FBI documents that got released. On the 26th and 27th of January 1943, an examination was made of the technical papers of Dr. Nikola Tesla, which after his decease had been stored in the Manhattan White House in New York City. This examination was made for the purpose of determining if any ideas of significant value in the present United States war effort could be found among his possessions. Participating in this examination were Mr. John C. Newington, New York Office of the Alien Property Custodian, Dr. Charles of the Washington Office of Scientific Research and Development, and John G. Trump of the Office of Scientific Research and Development of Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The following papers, which were regarded as typical of Nikola Tesla's writings and thoughts in the period of 1925 to 1942, were removed for the purpose of record and listed below in random order in which they were found, together with a brief individual abstract. Possibilities of electrostatic generators. An updated article probably written about 1934 discussing the possibilities as a source of high-voltage DC power of the Van de Graaff type of electrostatic belt generator. The article states correctly the electrostatic principle is employed in this device and points out that such generators are not suitable for commercial high-powered applications, though of undoubted scientific value. Tesla's wireless tower, erected in 1902 on Long Island, is stated in its memorandum to have charged to 30 million volts. Exhibit B. Reactive force of glycerin and dynamite. An undated memorandum involving some calculation of the explosive power of certain compounds, and then deviating to a discussion of the possibility of transmitting power by mechanical vibrations along the Earth's crust. Process of degasifying, refining, and purifying metals. A 40-page memorandum probably written about 1930 dealing with the above subject and proposing new theories of capillarity and surface tension. These correspondence indicated that this has been subjected to various industrial companies. Exhibit D, replying to Ant.org regarding the generation of high voltage and acceleration of charged particles. This document, dated the 8th of November 1935, answers questions raised by Soviet engineers and scientists regarding Tesla's proposal of ray. From this answer, it's deduced that the proposal concerned the generation of high voltage by electrostatic means. These means consisted of a high-voltage terminal presumably supported by an insulating column and charged by a gaseous charge conveying medium passing between ground and terminal. The ideas contained in these notes are fairly similar to the bolt conveyor electrostatic generator methods proposed by Van de Graaff and do not appear to offer any unusual features. Exhibit E, Art of Telegeodynamics, or Art of Producing Terrestrial Motions at Distance. This document, in the form of a letter dated 12th of June 1940, to the Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company, proposes a method for the transmission of large amounts of power over vast distances by means of mechanical vibration on the Earth's crust. The source of power is a mechanical or electromechanical device bolted to some rocky protuberance and importing power at a resonance frequency of the Earth's crust. The proposed scheme appears to be completely visionary and unworkable. Westinghouse's reply indicates their polite rejection of the idea. There are some, however, that believe these documents are not telling us everything, and that there's a possibility some of Tesla's work and inventions are being held back. So what do you guys make of this mysterious link? Scientists estimate that the first single-cell organisms appeared on Earth billions of years ago. Since then, the evolutionary process of life has given birth to millions of different species. Over the course of the last 100 years, scientists have done extensive research on many of the ancient creatures that once roamed this planet. From the giant dinosaurs to the smaller creatures, fossils of ancient animals have been discovered that have allowed the scientists to learn about these fascinating creatures. While the scientific evidence tells us that many of the ancient animals are now extinct, there have been some incidents during the recent years that tell us otherwise. Various people have come forward with bizarre and interesting accounts of ancient creatures. Although these stories aren't accepted by mainstream scientists, there's a variety of people who have dedicated their lives to investigating these encounters. So today we take a look at these three mysterious creatures. There are more than enough variations in species all across the Australian outback for many experts to be unaware of some existences. Given the nature of the outback and its incredibly hostile environment, the area doesn't see much human activity, if any. This of course goes without saying that the Australian outback is at the center of many myths and legends. These mostly involve a wide variety of terrifying creatures roaming the landscape. Many of these focus around the encounters that native Aboriginal people have had whilst traveling through the outback. They've passed down stories of strange creatures they've fought. These encounters have only created more questions than answers. As researchers have said, they would have been well aware of the local wildlife of the region. One is the story of the Baranja, which is a small creature that shares incredible similarities to that of a Tyrannosaurus rex. This creature is said to be not as large as its ancient ancestor. Molds of large three-toed footprints have also been created from imprints found in the Australian outback. These measure in at more than 3 feet in width and 4 feet in length. According to the Aboriginal myths, there roams a massive lizard with the tail of an alligator, walks on 2 hind legs, possesses a massive and powerful jaw, and has 2 short arms at its chest. There has been a large number of reports of a T-Rex-like creature in the Australian outback. This has even caused film networks to go out and film episodes centering around the discovery of the creature and its existence. Although it's unlikely that the T-Rex survived in such a climate, given the large number of reptiles of all sizes in the Australian outback, it could be a very real possibility that the descendant of the creature exists today, roaming in some of the largest and emptiest landscapes in history. Back in 1954, there was a report that a farmer in the Australian outback encountered something he couldn't explain. He described the creature as looking like a theropod dinosaur, further stating that it was around 15 feet in length and had spines protruding from its head. The encounter lasted only a matter of seconds before the creature moved on. One of the issues with this story, though, is that there's very limited evidence to back up what's being said. Another mysterious creature said to be living in Australia is that of the Megalania. This is also known as the giant monitor lizard and lived in the southern parts of Australia about 50,000 years ago. Could grow up to 25 feet and could weigh up to 4,000 pounds. It's the largest identified lizard to ever exist. As of right now, this giant beast is considered to be extinct by the scientists. Researchers are not sure as to what caused its extinction. However, there are still many people who believe that this lizard exists in the vast unexplored areas of the outback. A number of alleged sightings have been reported in different parts of Australian rainforest too. Some sightings have also been reported in New Guinea. Among the various stories of encountering it, one of the most authentic stories is that of a soldier named Steve. In 1968, Steve was serving in the Australian military. His unit was taking part in a military exercise in the Normandy Range in Queensland. During the exercise, one of the tasks assigned to his unit was to move through a treacherous swampy area. Whilst moving through the area, the soldiers saw something. They came across a few pieces of a cow's body. It seemed that the cow had been ripped into pieces and dragged for a long distance. Whatever creature had killed this cow had taken huge bites out of its body. The soldiers looked around for more clues. They found giant footprints that were approximately 2 feet in length. It seemed like the footprints were made by a heavy lizard-like creature, as they were very solid imprints on the muddy surface. The soldiers tried to find more evidence of the creature, but they were short on time and had to complete the exercise. Many of the soldiers who saw the cow's remains and the footprint of the creature indicated there was a very high chance that the lizard-like creature was still somewhere in the area. Due to the location being covered in swamps and marshes, it would have made it an ideal place to hide and hunt. Some people who have examined this claim say there's a possibility of a Komodo dragon killing the cow and making the footprints whilst dragging the cow. However, the footprints were way larger than those made by a Komodo dragon. This has caused many to speculate it was a megalania that killed the cow. This and many other similar incidents along the vast unexplored terrains of Australia have made many people believe that this creature still exists. Another mysterious creature that's been witnessed in Australia is that of the Hawkesbury River monster. This creature is said to inhabit an area around New South Wales. It lurks in the depths of the Hawkesbury River, and according to Rex Gilroy, who is an Australian naturalist and head of the Australian Unknown Animals Investigation Centre, he believes the creature to be living and utilizing the Central Coast as a place for breeding. The Hawkesbury River monster has been at the center of a number of different, impossible-to-explain sightings. Eyewitnesses have come forward with their stories over the years. It's known by people who try to stay away from it. The folklore goes on to talk about a huge reptilian water monster that attacks women and children. Eyewitness reports over the years places the length of the monster to be between 7 and 24 meters. It possesses 2 sets of flippers with a snake-like head. This description can be compared to the prehistoric plesiosaur that went into extinction about 70 million years ago. These were creatures that lived alongside the dinosaurs millions of years ago, and some have suggested that these giant marine reptiles somehow managed to survive the extinction event. This is due to there being all over the world many sightings of these creatures. Ancient Aboriginal rock art dating between 300 to 400 years ago depicts the creature as 20 feet long. Rex Gilroy has been investigating the Hawkesbury River monster for a considerable length of time, gathering some genuinely disturbing accounts from individuals who guarantee to have had an experience with the monster. One of these such reports have said that 2 of these creatures came to the water's surface sometime in 1945. He described each as having a head about 10 feet long with a pale, yellowish-white underside. He put the total body length to be about 45 to 50 feet. This creature didn't seem to be scared, and after coming to the surface, it slowly made its way back into the depths. A more recent account happened in March 2010. This time, the eyewitness was a fisherman near Wiseman's Ferry. They claimed to have seen a creature rise above the water with a serpentine head, further saying that the neck was around 2 meters in length. The fisherman said this wasn't the first time he had seen the water serpent. He went on to say that a few months after this encounter, he saw it again. This time he managed to get a better look, and he said it had a thick body and 4 flippers. Another report comes from 2 friends who were relaxing on the river. They said that at the time they were in a small boat. While around 50 meters out from the shore, they felt something knock their boat. As they looked over the side, they could see the large body of a water serpent. They quickly headed back to shore, not wanting to overstay their welcome. They said the creature was around 20 to 30 feet in length and had jet black eyes. They said they were well educated in the animals that lived in the river, and this was unlike anything they had seen before. With the number of reported sightings, many hunters and cryptozoologists are hoping to locate and catch the monster. So what do you make of these interesting reports from Australia? Cryptozoology is the study of creatures that are rumored to exist. These creatures haven't been scientifically proven, but some of the legendary creatures turned out to be real. Some interesting reports that have emerged from various corners of the planet is that the prehistoric creatures somehow managed to survive mass extinction events. Many places have their own stories about these creatures, and one of these places is for years now, people have come forward with their reports, and they mostly detail encountering large reptilian creatures. These can only be described as similar looking to dinosaurs, and every witness who has seen them has agreed to this. One of the most common creatures seen in this region is the large pterosaurs that used to roam the sky. These were avian reptiles that grew to enormous sizes. They were most commonly sighted throughout the 1800s and onwards. This led many to believe that they somehow outlived their dinosaur cousins. Although in recent years, they've been given the name of thunderbirds. Although the name might not indicate a singular species, the thunderbird has the appearance of a large single bird seen flying overhead in different parts of the world. These sightings and birds were given the names thunderbirds as they shared a lot of characteristics with various stories. This included the ancient Native American traditions and mythologies surrounding a large flying creature referred to as the thunderbird. This has left many wondering, however, if the creature is a modern-day sighting of a pterosaur. Additionally, the thunderbird is described as being the size of a man when standing upright with a wingspan of over 16 feet in length. This has left many cryptozoologists working around the clock to calculate its possible flight patterns and capability of sustained flight given its size. It's due to this that it's been theorized by cryptozoologists that thunderbird originally was referred to by Native American traditions. This was because the creature would follow the upwind drafts created during a large thunderstorm to sustain their weight, size, and movement. This is very similar to the way modern-day eagles ride up the side of mountain currents to gain height, with little work required on their part. A normal-sized bird would be torn up to unsustainable heights during a thunderstorm and might find themselves in unstable flight positions, causing them to be thrown to and fro. But a bird the size of the thunderbird would be able to stabilize their flight due to their weight and size even when affected by such forces. These creatures are still being encountered today, and each report is similar to the next. One thing that does change is the creature's wingspan. Some have reported it's just over 20 feet, while others have suggested that the creature possesses a wingspan of over 40 feet. One story tells of a load of cowboys that got into trouble with one of these creatures. The year was 1880, and every so often there would be whispers of these giant birds. Those who lived in the Wild West during this time were said to be very well aware of them, as every so often they would fly over the town. On this particular occasion, the location was Tombstone, Arizona. 2 branches had seen one of these creatures fly overhead and decided to pursue it. They were warned by other locals to stay away from the creatures, as they were known to attack humans. However, they didn't listen and so went on horseback to track down the flying giant. The 2 men were said to have tracked the animal for several hours. They saw it resting on the ground after it had been flying. They recalled that it looked tired and that its size was much bigger than what they originally thought. Once on the ground, the 2 men then started to fire at the creature, managing to wound it in the process. It again took flight, but as it was doing this, the men continued to fire. During this battle, the creature then set its attention to the men and started to attack. While trying to defend itself, though, it hit the ground, only causing itself more damage. The men were finally able to take down the creature, and once on the ground, they measured it. Reports suggest it was over 90 feet in length. Up until now, only a few people had seen these flying reptiles up close, and the 2 men were excited to bring the animal back to town. They recalled that it had 2 large feet that were joined to the body. Its wings were just as impressive and could fold under the body. When the creature was resting, the head of the beast was between 5 and 7 feet in length. It had a strong jaw that was filled with dozens of razor-sharp teeth. It's not known what happened to its body once it was brought back to town. Although these stories sound outlandish and completely made up, there is some photographic evidence that back up these claims. Modern science tells us, however, that these stories are completely untrue. The photographs in question are interesting, but many of them are hard to track to an original source. They usually feature various men standing around a large avian-like creature. They do match modern recreations of pterosaurs, something that men of these time most likely wouldn't have known. This photograph shows 5 men standing around a large bird-like creature. The story behind this one isn't known. However, a few of the men can be seen with guns, which points towards the idea that this animal was shot down by the men. No more information can be found on the photograph. The next photograph is believed to have been taken during the 1950s, and it shows a man holding up one of these creatures. Researchers have suggested that this one was a baby, or a juvenile. What's interesting, though, is that it doesn't show a massive pterosaur, causing some to think that it's more genuine than the rest. This photo is the clearest one to date. The last photograph is said to be a thunderbird. Once again, though, not much information can be gathered about where it originated from. Although some cryptozoologists researchers who have studied the image have said this is the real deal. All of these sightings and encounters have led people to carry out further research. This is because they think there's a real possibility that pterosaurs are still living in limited numbers in remote parts of the world. Over the past few decades, many have claimed to have seen a pterosaur. Most of the alleged sightings had been in North America. A few sightings of the pterosaur had been reported in Africa as well. During the earlier half of the 20th century, some locals in Zambia claimed to have seen a giant flying reptile that was very aggressive and that would try to attack the humans. The description of the flying reptile indicated it was a pterosaur or a similar creature, is that of the Bridgewater Triangle. Definitely one of the strangest and most well-reported areas featuring mysterious sightings is the Bridgewater Triangle. It's similar to that of the Bermuda Triangle, in which it seems that strange and anomalous properties focus their events to encompass an area spanning roughly 200 square miles. This encompasses the majority of southeastern Massachusetts located in the United States. The land itself is determined via referencing specific boundaries, such as the towns Ambington and Freetown that make up 2 of the 3 points of the triangle. This creates an area of land in between that seems to be a focused area of paranormal activity. These dense forested areas seem to hold a wide variety of different unexplainable sightings, along with terrifying encounters with monsters and supernatural entities. Men and women have reportedly encountered numerous different types of Sasquatches in the area and seen large birds flying overhead that are commonly described as massive thunderbirds. Not only that, but strange animal mutilations have been witnessed that seem to be the work of darker cults. This has caused some to speculate that the place is haunted by various entities. This has led to a wide variety of strange disappearances as well, of which locals blaming as the cause of these tragedies. Interestingly, various studies have been carried out and the Bridgewater Triangle lays claim to being one of the most haunted places in the world, along with being a place that has a high number of cryptid reports. To this day, there seems to be no real explanation as to the cause of the mass number of sightings, disappearances, or the strange nature of the dense forested areas in the region. As of today, it's not known what these creatures are and what people are encountering. One thing that is known is that reports span across the entire planet, with people even coming forward from remote locations to report their sightings. Some of these locations don't have access to books of these